Welcome to the Unheard Perspective, the podcast that invites you into perspectives of unique journeys, personal experiences, values, and political ideologies. We're your hosts, Sasha, Reva,
and Basil, and together we will dive into conversations that transcend and show the usual boundaries of the political world.
Before we dive into our discussion, we will share what inspired us both to start the Unheard Perspective podcast.
Well, I'd like to start with my story. I came to the U.S. in 2016. I came as a high school student, and me and my family immigrated from Egypt. I was 15 years old. I first came to New York City. I love the city. It doesn't sleep. And I came to the U.S. with my family. It was a different life. It was a new life for all of us. For me, it was a new school, and we faced new experiences than what we are usually used to. We had to adapt and improve our language. In 2018, I received my U.S. citizenship. I was 17 years old at the time. I would say we immigrated to the U.S. for a better life. We heard about the American dream, and we saw it as a chance to improve our lives and contribute to society. It took us years to get through the immigration system, but we finally got the opportunity to come to the U.S. What about you, Sasha?
This is what unites us immigrants. Our stories are so connected because we understand the value of living here in the United States. I moved to the United States back in 2018. And I experienced so many challenges because I just didn't know the basic English language. New life, new country, new school, everything has changed, and all I had to do was adapt. With time living in the United States for 5 years, I was able to improve my English to level of advanced. I received my US citizenship back in 2021. It was COVID time, so I didn't really have a ceremony, but for me, I was truly blessed to be a citizen of the United States. And now I'm pursuing the dream of working in the government and making the United States a better place. Every time I compare my life between Ukraine and the United States, I can truly say that I was blessed to end up being here.
Well, I have a question for you. What shaped your cultural and political beliefs, and why do you have conservative values?
Well, I received my political beliefs from my family. Back in Ukraine, my family was very involved in politics, and we always discussed it at the dinner table. I was always interested in politics just because it was something that is affecting everyone on a daily basis either way. It doesn't matter if you're working in industry like business, medical, or arts. Either way, you're affected by what is happening in the world. Being conservative for me is something that has a strong emphasis on traditional values and family values. It values the protection of individual rights, upholding the principles of the Constitution, and creating the environment beneficial to people, to personal and economic freedoms. What about you?
I would say that our family, we had traditions, and growing up, our traditions have been passed down within my family to my grandfather, to my father, and then to me. And that shaped my understanding of culture as well as life. And now I see how it impacts my political and cultural beliefs. And they grew tremendously as I got into college. I practiced critical thinking, which allowed me to reshape some of my beliefs. And what made me dive into the political world was the 2020 presidential election, which I think that is when many people also dived into politics. And that's when heated debates happened, social justice movements, and a lot of people were initiated into politics from that time. And they knew what side they were on. And some people were still learning about what side they could join. And especially with COVID, 2020 was an awakening for too many people. That made me and a lot of other people reflect back on our values. You know, when in family dinner discussions, college hall debates, that made 2020 a year where most people discovered politics and took a side.
What's one thing that differentiates us from people who were born in the United States?
I think one key difference between people who are born in the U.S. and immigrants like us that came here to pursue the American dream is the lens through which we see opportunities as well as challenges. We as immigrants often bring a perspective, a unique one, that is shaped by our cultural backgrounds, challenges, experiences that we had to go through all of that to come to America. And that took years. This perspective really contributes to innovation, especially. And native-born individuals, of course, they are born here. They may take certain opportunities for granted or perceive challenges differently than we do. And that blending of perspectives, it could lead to really dynamic exchange of ideas and values that further enriches the American experience, and that creating the America we see today. What about you? What do you think?
I lived in Ukrainian culture, which has totally different traditions, holidays, historical influences that shape the way people think, interact, and view the world. This includes language, cuisine, religious practices, and social norms. I'll use one of the examples, religious practices. In Ukraine, we don't go to church on a weekly basis. We go to church on specific holidays like Christmas, Jesus' baptism, or Easter. While here, it's a norm to go to church on Sundays, every Sunday. Another example is cuisine. Comparing to America, if you think about America and their food, the first thing comes to mind, obviously, is cheeseburger. While in Ukraine, it comes borscht. Borscht is the beet soup with beets, potatoes, and beef, which is totally different, two cuisine types, and that's how different lives it is. And growing up in Ukraine, it brought up a lot of challenges for me when I moved here and I had to adapt to the American way of living.
I would say when it comes to food, fast food specifically, I've never had that much McDonald's or Popeyes till I came to America. And I'll ask you, what were some of the most challenging moments in your adaptation process?
Well, as a teenager from different country, entering high school in the United States, learning about American culture, social standards, and education is so different. I remember the first time coming to class and trying to figure out what to do next. I met a girl, her name was Alyssa, and she has been helping me to adapt in school and introduced me to so many things. I attended a special class which called English as a Second Language, where everyone was an immigrant, and my English improved within 3 months. The language barrier was one of the most challenging for me because I could understand, but I couldn't respond. With 5 years of learning in a different environment, I forced myself into American culture. I wanted to fit in. What about you?
I would say as a young immigrant coming to the United States, going into high school, I had limited knowledge of the culture, social norms and customs. I've only watched American movies, and I faced challenges as well when it came to adapting to the local culture, slangs, and the teenage culture. I lived in Jersey, and teaching styles, specifically grading systems, curriculums, they were so much different than what I was used to. And for example, where I come from, physical discipline, slapping your child, is considered a normal corrective action. But here in America, it is often viewed as abuse. Now, I'm not making a judgment whether that's right or wrong. That depends on the culture. But that is a huge cultural difference that could make some people think, hey, immigrants are weird or so much different. Language barriers, too, they really posed challenges, especially when it comes to completing assignments and understanding lectures. But English was a passion of mine as a child, and I overcame it.
Well, our journeys has certainly been a roller coaster. It's crazy to hear how our backgrounds shaped our lives, how everything has changed since we moved to America.
I would say a lot of other people, they have the same experience. They are just there existing. And I would think it's great to have them here, tell their stories. Our family backgrounds, they played a significant role in shaping our beliefs, cultural and political too. Our differences, stories, and our unique perspectives, I hope they resonate with the listeners of this podcast.
And as we wrap up this episode, we invite you to join us on this journey of unheard perspectives and the untold stories.
Stay tuned for the next episode of The Unheard Perspective.
Thanks for listening.